I'm David from Taiwan, Taipei. We are private sector, unlike other has foundations, but I believe that as 2-3 people as a private sector, you can also make a positive impact in your ecosystem in Asia. And throughout the next 10 minutes, I hope to share with you all how we're about to do that. First, what we're going to do in the next 10 minutes is going to actually first define what is a startup ecosystem, what are the best practices, what's the key takeaway, and closing. So a little bit about myself. I'm a 2-time failed entrepreneur. So when I was about to do my 3rd entrepreneur, my wife basically says, you know what? No, let's not repeat the history. Why don't you just tell your failed story to other people who are about the same journey? And it actually worked out, and that's how we began to do it. So my first engagement with the startup is actually Startup Weekend. I'm fortunate to organize the last 10 out of 11 Startup Weekend in Taiwan over 5 different cities. And that is the reason that I'm very fortunate to be part of the Startup Nation in June. And about us, we've been soul searching for 5 minutes. We were once a Startup Weekend organizer, then we did our pre-incubation over 6 batches, and then we thought we were once a PR and event company. So a lot of people in Taiwan doesn't know what we do, and we don't know ourselves either, but that's part of the Startup Weekend. So finally last year, we found our position. We are basically a pre-incubation program. So it's from the 0 to 1 idea stage. I'm going to talk more about what that is. And we've been doing a bit early stage investment, about 10 to 20,000 K. No, 10,000 US dollars. And these are the photos with our latest achievement. On the left is actually, we are so fortunate as a private sector to host the city of Japan, Fukuoka City Mayor, and then make that liaison between the Taipei City Mayor. You see our Taipei City Mayor happy with Fukuoka City Mayor. And Fukuoka City Mayor is actually from Japan. He's the youngest mayor in Japan. His first term was 36, and now he's same age I am, 41. And you must wonder, why are private sector being selected by a Japanese government to do this? Well, welcome to startup. Anything can happen. We were actually surprised as well. Well, the city of Fukuoka became our clients. That was never heard of. So that's, you come back. If you are solving an actual problem in the ecosystem, people will come to you, regardless of whether you have a brand or not. It's like if we are in the desert 3 days and there's no water, and you happen to be the one that's selling kind of like a water, people will come to you because you're solving a problem. And that's what I encourage everybody to make an impact, regardless you're 2 to 3 people. And the right-hand side is actually another, we're bringing the city mayor to different, the central government, which is our MDC, part of the responsible on developing the Silicon Valley Asia project right now for Taiwan. So one of our gateways is called TSS, and they are responsible to bring Taiwan startup to abroad. So you see happy people with happy faces. And our team is very small. We are about 3 full-time people and about 4 outsourced partners, and we are able to do this. So what is a startup ecosystem? Well, this is from Wikipedia. You cannot go wrong with that. So startup ecosystem is formed by people and startup service provider, anybody who is involved in the ecosystem, and with one goal is to help startup. The goal is not to make you famous. The goal is to help startup, and that's what. And I definitely agree and embrace this definitions. So, what are type of roles? I'm just listing some of the common. They can give you more, and this is how everybody can involve in the ecosystem. And just like startup, when you think that you are an event organizer, maybe what you're actually doing is helping policy. So there are different angles, and the business model for each of the service provider can be very different. For example, if you're a co-work space, your source of revenue may seem by rental, but what you're really doing, you could be something else. You could be hosting international startup to your and collect consulting fees. So what I'm saying is that we need to explore further as a service providers on possible business model. Why? Because we want to build a financial sustain, and that's how you can help the ecosystem. And very importantly, every country, and I encourage everyone to do so, is how to build your own map. And this is something that I found on Google, and I think it's great. It's from Norway. So there are two aspects about building a roadmap, a startup ecosystem. One is you need to define your stages, and sometimes you need to talk to your service provider about what if 3 stages, 4 stages, 5, what stages works for you. For example, in this idea is idea stage, startup and growth, you can see on the top. Another one is categorizations. And this is something that you need to build a consensus if you want to be taking part of this ecosystem mapping. So this is our ecosystem map in Taiwan. And you know, we are just a small private company, and then we're able to build this together with 250 volunteers over the 3 years. And this has been 0.5 version. And every 6 months, you see people, new players coming into the ecosystem. And the key thing about building this is you need to be neutral. You need to be helping everybody. But there's a difference between liked by everybody and being neutral. So we can talk about that later on. So what are the best practices? So there are a few takeaways, and it's definitely about embracing the new value system. And one is about sharing insights. They're at different level. When I met Steve Blank about 3 years ago at Beijing, Microsoft, and he told me the first key thing about contributing to your ecosystem is share. Are you willing to share your presentation video file to anybody? Sharing is very important. And as an ecosystem player, what you need to find is what position you at advantage when you're looking in Asia International. What are the elements that attract people to your ecosystem? That's what insight. For example, in Taiwan, you would think about IoT. But lately, while we were working with Korean and Japanese startups, we found out that a lot of people come to Taiwan to learn Chinese. Not to go to China, but to go to Southeast Asia. I was very surprised. Why? Because apparently a lot of people in Southeast Asia, they're a movement run by Chinese descendants, and they watch Taiwan TV. And that is the insight that we didn't know, but now we put it as an advertisement when we're attracting. So that's insight. And on the right-hand side, open channel. You gotta be open, you gotta welcome everybody. You gotta build a channel that everybody, even though you're competitors, even the people who bully you when you're little, open channels, very important. And deregulation. Taiwan has been trying to deregulate. Example would be helping Uber to be legalized. Why we want to help Uber? It's not so much Uber. It's about, imagine if we can pass the law, more digital economy will thrive. Taiwan right now is facing a more challenging, we're trying to soul searching. Past 30 years will be heavily rely on ODM semiconductor technology. But what's the next 30 years for Taiwan? Well, we realize that if we can build a very friendly place for international startup to soft land using Taiwan as a hub, about 10 countries from Taiwan is about 2 to 3 hour flights. That's what Taiwan want to be repositioned, so deregulation. Another one with our recent collaboration with Japan, inter-ecosystem collaboration is very important. So why building an ecosystem and making it mature is so important? Because the more consistent, the more team player we are, the better we can help start to move the roadblocks. There are 2 challenges for startup. One is running out of time and running out of the cash. Especially if you're doing startup in Asia, what's the key pressure? It's actually dad and mom. Because your parents have no idea what you're doing until you're successful and seen in the media. And recently my parents saw me in the media, and all of a sudden they say, "This is my proud son." Right? So that's why we need to work together to help to remove the roadblocks. So as a service provider, once again, we need to embrace the new value system. So what are they? So the first one is putting starting first. The win of your starting in your ecosystem is the win for your home country. It's sending a positive message to other countries to join your ecosystem. So when we're talking about ecosystem, we're not only talking about your own ecosystem, we're talking about the relationship between you and your counterparts. So when I was consulting to the Taipei City Hall in building their co-work space, the first thing is I ask, what is your relationship to DCAP? What's your relationship to Magic in Malaysia? We need to think out of the box, think about inter-continent or inter-ecosystem. And the second thing is, What are the winning elements that makes your startup can compete on an unfair competitive advantage? And brainstorm on different initiatives. Think outside the box, and of course, celebrate the win. Even the win doesn't come from you. Recognition is very key when you're building the ecosystem. So how do we actually do that? So how can you create a map and building an ecosystem? The first step is actually communication channel. So what we did is we used WeChat, Line, and Facebook Tracker. We have about 250 members chatting there 24 hours. Nobody sleeps. Well, they are top officials. They are VCs. They're angel investors. They're key event organizers. Why this is important? Well, especially when you're making international events. Right now, Taiwan has about 20 international events, and our counterparts have a problem identifying which one to go to. Well, if we can all combine these 10 to 20 organized events into one or two, and making the dates not colliding on the week, that's a win for your ecosystem. That's why I think building a communication channel. And the second thing is cross-promote events. We use Hackpads and Quip to list out 50 and 60 events across our country and send it to our counterparts so that they know who to support, which one to go. And three thing is building a directory. We're actually building a yellow pages. And then we use a plugin in our website and everybody can just register. And we provide this information to 13 ministries across 48 government initiatives. So when they want to find people, when they want to reach out, they don't need to spend time on Google because it doesn't exist there. You can't really find these information on Google, right? So I think if you really want to contribute to your ecosystem, these are the few basic things, and I'll be more than happy to show you and share with you and create the map. So what are the takeaway is, first of all, in fact, there are challenges. As we kind of mentioned that, well, Asian education, there's something that we were not taught when we were little, is how to celebrate other people's win and how to work together. So these are some challenges that you may see is, how do you collaborate with your competitors? Well, I wouldn't say competing. My dad was telling me, if there's no competitor in your market, that's not good news. It means that there's no real demand. So you want your competitor to do well. So you want everybody to help each other, so you will thrive in the ecosystem. And how do you create an open, trusted private and public sectors? Well, in Asia, it's about a lot of coffee and tea, a lot of communication. Win people's heart. And number three is, how do you build consensus? Well, if you have open communication channels, if you celebrate other people's win, well, consensus will come. So our experience, treat this movement as a startup. You will definitely fail. We failed many times. But if you don't fail, how can you succeed? Second thing is, think about ecosystems. Win is your own win. There's no better way when people thrive in your ecosystem. And number three is create white paper, sharings, and their blogs, and share your experience to other people so other people can jump in and help you. And once again, thank you very much. I'm David Gore from Taiwan, and we are a pre-incubation program, and we are early stage investor. Thank you once again, and you're free to contact us.